standard. Despite the fact we saw Ball Jugglers do so well against Northern Gaming just now, and that is what the Yacht Boys have locked in. The exact same compositions as we saw in the last series. How can TYB play it differently to win it?
Yeah, and I mean, hey, we have seen the Ball Jugglers just absolutely desecrate another RMD, even though this is one that they 3-0'd against, that they got 3-0'd against, excuse me. I think they probably are feeling relatively confident at this point.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I mean, coming off of such a great series, they've just played, they're so warmed up, they're pumped, they're hyped. They're one game away from securing qualification to the regionals. That would be such a great story if this Destro LSD is able to take down two of the greatest RMDs in Europe in order to qualify for that regionals, and then they don't have to worry about RMD MOP anymore. They can just concentrate on that Legion expansion, but they have to beat the Yacht Boys in a best of 5.
Yeah, and if they do manage to pull this off, I definitely don't think there will be any question that they are one of the best teams in the world, especially after their ladder performance.
Sure. Like, there's no way anyone's questioning that even at this point, to be honest. I mean, they are the only people playing this comp successfully. I know there's a US team, I think Thugonomics and stuff, who are playing this comp, but they just don't play it anywhere near to the same level as these guys are playing it right now. They are on top of their game, beating the best RMDs in the world. The question is, can they finish it off with the Yacht Boys?
So I'm interested to see the Yacht Boys not jumping in as early as we would suspect them to with their opener. Wonder what they're waiting for. Maybe this is the strategy that they brought that allowed them to 3-0. And here we go. There's a blind.
Yep, so Thessia does open up. He does, I'm not sure. They didn't get any real CC onto Phenomenals there, to be honest. I mean, he's just going to sit onto a stringer. So really, like we were, like it's taken so long for the setup to happen. It happens, then nothing happens.
But they still are profitable. They do get the Iron Bark.
Yeah, they do get the Iron Bark. They only commit the Icy Veins. It's fine. Good trade in favor of the Yacht Boys. I really think this is what the Yacht Boys, this is how they're going to win the series. I think they are just patient enough. They're perfectly happy to play this incredibly long game. So they're just going to make sure they don't take too much damage. We do see Gelubaba pushing in the kidney shot onto Nazarins. They get the full sheep out of that deep freeze, so nicely set up by them. Nazarin's just going to sit behind the pillar. He should just be able to LOS any damage. Now the Dark Soul coming out. This is the double Shadow Fury. Miley needs to be a bit careful here. Gelu gets locked on the Polymorph. He will not be able to lock these down to 50%. Decasses Miley out of that CC. Should be okay for now. Second Chaos Bolt not going to land. The Yacht Boys just retreat.
The Yacht Boys turned the aggression from the Ball Jugglers into a weakness there, and they really got to turn on Nazarin, but he does manage to cast a Chaos Bolt here. It hits Thessia.
Yep, Thessia takes a bit of damage, has that feint up, of course, so they're not going to be too worried about him just now. Sheep's coming out from Gelubaba, and this is the Yacht Boys to a T. They know that in these long matchups, they are so confident playing the dampening out. Miley is just so good at keeping his team alive no matter how long the game goes. He's definitely one of the safest Resto Druids in the RMD composition. And of course, Thessia as well is so on the ball. He has such great awareness always. I really like the way that the Yacht Boys are playing this right now, because they're just not taking any damage, and they are still getting some setups.
Yeah, I mean, Miley's at about 80%. They managed to take that one Iron Bark, but their setups haven't really been as much about damage, but locking down Nazarins. You can't allow him to cast any Chaos Bolts here. They need to try to shut them all down. They're doing a great job at it. We see the Gouge, we see the Kidney Shot, and once again, they managed to pull that Iron Bark.
Yep, they force a little cooldown. They cyclone it up, so nicely played by Miley, just making sure nothing too dangerous comes out. Of course, at the same time, Phenomenals is also cycloning Thessia, so you can see on your screen exactly mirrored cyclones between Party 1 on both teams, both Resto Druids equally respecting the other one. This is kind of like a gentleman's settle down. We're just going to wait until dampening starts kicking in here, and then we'll have to see if the Yacht Boys really can outperform what NG Blue were doing during dampening to take down the Ball Jugglers.
If you're just tuning in, we saw one of the best RMDs in the world in the same position as the Yacht Boys. They tried to wait for dampening against Ball JS, and they weren't able to do it.
Yeah, so that's the big question is, can the Yacht Boys pull off this dampening technique? We suspected that it was probably the best strategy for the RMDs, because LSC is just so tanky, especially with a Destro Warlock who has all that self-healing. And definitely if you theorycraft it, you say if the RMD can get to 100% dampening without taking any damage, they can just stealth in and kill the Warlock without him being able to take any healing. So you just have to wonder where before 100% dampening that point comes where they can just kill Nazarins without him getting any damage off, and if they can survive till that.
Yeah, and if Nazarin gets to cast a Chaos Bolt during that dampening, he's going to really be able to push someone to death. And now Nazarin's taking quite a bit of damage. They're going to pull the wall.
Yeah, they actually forced quite a lot of cooldowns there onto Nazarens. That was a nice setup from the Yacht Boys. But at the same time, Gelu Baba taking some damage. He takes one Chaos Ball. He blinks behind the pillar. He needs to be a bit careful. He's down to 25% damage coming out from Zepai. A nice cheap shot from Thessia ensures nothing happens to Gelu Baba. That would be unfortunate for the Yacht Boys. But they forced the Trinket from Fnobbers. They forced that Wool, which is a 3-minute defensive cooldown from Nazarens. So two pretty big cooldowns forced by the Yacht Boys. They could maybe look to swap to Fnobbers. They could also just carry on with the strategy of hitting Nazarens. Either way, a very nice setup.
Miley's been able to post up behind this pillar and drink his fill at 100% mana. So when we talk about entering dampening, the Yacht Boys looking very good. Gelly getting some pressure onto him.
Yep. At the same time, Fnobbers pushes in, gets the bash onto Miley. Doesn't look like too much going to come off that. They get the kidney shot. Are they going to be able to set up the CC? Fnobbers preemptively dispels the sheep onto Zepai, but he's not able to stop the CC regardless. Gelu Baba going to land that one. Nazarens needs to be a little bit careful. Double Icy never comes out. We see 3 Ember taps. He ports away from Thessia, and Miley takes the dash. He's getting soloed by Zepai. He needs to be careful. Zepai was literally behind the opposite pillar to Nazarens, soloing Miley there. He needs to respect that damage because he was very close to execute range.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if Nazarens didn't blow the embers, maybe that could have been a different story. Now Nazarens getting caught into the smoke bomb. He's the one who's taking all of the damage for Balls JS.
Yeah, he's in a lot of trouble, actually. He's already used both his mobility cooldowns. We suspect he doesn't have too many embers right now because he used so much on the healing on the previous setup, and Nobber's kind of getting left behind. He is going to be able to reconnect now. He actually uses that Heart of the World. I'm not sure I like that decision because he's using that at 18 minutes. I don't think this game's going to go to 12 minutes, and that cooldown could actually be a significant usage on the side of BALL.js.
Yeah, and I thought that they were using the kidney there just to shut down the Dark Soul, but they actually went in with quite a bit of damage, pulled yet another Iron Bark. The Yacht Boys looking incredibly commanding.
Yeah, I really like this for the Yacht Boys right now. They do get the Deep Freeze, unable to force the Trinket with that one, but they're going to follow it up with the Ring of Frost. The question is, can they get any damage going? A nice double Shadow Fury coming out into the Fear from Nazarens, so well played by him. There's going to be no more CC onto Fnobbers, and they will be completely fine for now. That could have led to more, in my opinion, but the BALL.js playing it very well. Nazarens now taking a little bit of damage, so we see dampening at 13%. Fnobbers' Heart of the Wild will now expire, so he's going to feel the full wrath of dampening as it does continue to stack in this game.
Yeah, we're getting to that witching hour right now, about 14% in. This is when it's really going to be do or die. Yep,
I completely agree, and both the Druids do have the mana to deal with it right now. The question is going to be how Yacht Boys play it, because certainly BALL.js in their games against NG Blue, they had quite a bit of pressure as dampening started to build up, and it was causing the rest of Druid to use a lot of mana on healing, and he was really struggling. Whereas, if you look at the health pools of the Yacht Boys, they're just 100% the entire time. Nazarens is literally doing nothing. We see him get locked out again there on the Fear, so another great kick from Thessia. They still have the CS available for this Dark Soul, and they do use it there. Gelu Baba just making sure that Nazarens does not get any of these bolts.
We did see Northern Gaming Blue. They were able to kind of shut down the Dark Souls as well, but the Yacht Boys are just avoiding all pressure. It's not just the pressure from Nazarens that they're avoiding, and a lot of that comes from the pressure that they're putting on to BALL Jugglers.
Yeah, I completely agree. They have been doing a decent job with their setups. They've always been landing the CC, so even if they're not providing the damage, they just stop BALL Jugglers from controlling the game in any way. Miley tried to sit down for a drink there, but actually he didn't really get too much, and Geller's in trouble, having to use that first Ice Block, locked out in the sheep, so he wasn't able to stop any of those Dark Soul bolts, but there's not going to be another Dark Soul for 40 seconds. Nazarens just using that one as it came off cooldown. He gets caught up in the gouge now. They're looking to set up here.
Yeah, the thing to notice too, Gelly deciding to take just the standard Ice Block. He's not going for the strategy that Raikou went to go all in. They're looking to turtle, and we see 23% dampening, and that just keeps ticking up. Eventually, the Yacht Boys are going to look for the perfect setup, and we do see a kidney right now getting quite a bit of damage onto Nazarens. He pulls yet another Iron Bar.
Yeah, I agree, but honestly, if I were to call this game, I would say that the Yacht Boys aren't really doing much better than NG Blue did. I mean, Miley's mana is dropping. We're at 25% dampening, which wasn't really the point that NG Blue were dying either. And now Thessia taking a bit of damage, has to Trinket Cloak out of that one. So the Yacht Boy is definitely on the back foot here. Gelu Baba dropping down to 60% Chaos Bolt in the air. He needs to be careful. He does not use the second Ice Block. That Chaos Bolt with the Dark Soul going to secure it. That execute not respected by Gelu.
maybe going into dampening isn't the way to play against this team. We thought maybe the Yacht Boys knew something that Northern Gaming Blue didn't, because they have 3-0'd this team before, but maybe the Ball Jugglers have just really hit their stride. Absolutely incredible performance. We're going to take a peek at the damage board, and let's see how hard that Chaos Bolt actually hit for. That wasn't too beefy either. It was like 166k. We've seen some 233k ones. So impressive damage all over the board. Once again, Zeepai managing to hit that 11 million damage mark.
Watching that game makes me really want to check my notes, and I just double checked it, and I am correct that the Yacht Boys 3-0'd Bull JS. I would have loved to have seen that series, because honestly that game did not look like, well, obviously they lost it, it can't be 3-0 now. It did not look like a team that had the answer to this Bull JS squad. Ultimately, Nazarian's able to take down Galio. Of course, he didn't block, so they did have he's 100% all the time.
Well, the Yacht Boys are really going to have to think about it going into this game. Is it valid to try to push the Ball Jugglers into dampening, or do they need to try to close this game out earlier? A lot on the line here. Whoever loses this match is going home, and whoever wins is going to qualify for the regional finals.
Yeah, Bull JS are 2 games away from qualifying for regionals, for having a shot at ABC in the grand final, as we do see Zeepai caught up into the sap. We'll see if we can get the CC onto Fnobbers. They do get that deep freeze. Nothing unable to follow it up. He gets locked out on the Ring of Frost, so the win share from Zeepai going to break up that, and the Yacht Boys, we saw it last game, before dampening they don't have too much interest.
Yeah, the way that the Yacht Boys are playing it definitely telegraphs that they're just going to go for this dampening game yet again. I don't know if I agree with it. We just saw it hasn't worked in the past 2 series.
Yep, certainly didn't work in game 1. Although maybe it could have. We're going to see if it works on this big map. I certainly think if they lose this map, they need to change something up, but that's similar to what that was the situation for NG Blue. And ultimately, I'm not really seeing any differences between that series and this one thus far. We'll have to see what the Yacht Boys can show us, though, because, of course, they do have a good positive record. Thessia taking a bit of damage here. The Chaos Bolt, he's just going to answer it with the Feint, not using the Cloak of Shadows just yet. Nazarian's not scaring him too much.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you said earlier in the day when we were watching the Ball Jugglers play is just they have windows throughout the entire game. At any point, if Nazarian's is able to go off, he can just bring someone from 100 to 0 real quick.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's such a scary thought. So the RMD, of course, they want to be setting up on cooldown, but they're just so scared of Nazarian's, and sometimes maybe it's even like overly respecting him. Sometimes I would like to see them push in for the kill a little bit, and this is something that NG Blue did do a good job of, and they won 1 game and almost won game 4 as well because of this. They recognize their kill windows. We'll have to see if the Yacht Boys can do the same thing, or if they're just going to go for that super mega ultra dampening. Actually, the Cloak of Shadows coming out from Thessia, they're really respecting that Dark Soul Chaos Bolt out of the Cyclone since he didn't have Feint.
Yeah, but once again, Nazarian's not able to actually cast those Chaos Bolts. Doing a very good job at stopping him here. They'll make it to dampening pretty clean, but if we're looking at Miley right now, he's already at 72% mana. That's a little bit lower than he was at this point in the game in the last match, and he still didn't have enough mana.
Yeah, so we have to see if this map choice works out, because the pillars are so big, it's really easy for Ball Jugglers to push in on Miley. It's really hard for him to just LRS slightly around the pillar because of how large it is. So that's definitely one thing to consider, but the big map, of course, means Ball Jugglers can just run really far away. Thessia uses the Adrenaline Rush here, not achieving too much. Gate away from Nazarian. Looks like he should be okay for now. They're actually swapping over onto Zeepai. I like this choice. Can they follow up the Cyclones onto Fnobbers? It doesn't look like it. Thessia actually killing Spring Fnobbers. A little curious, that decision. Maybe it's going to get punished, actually, because he's in the middle of the map. Nazarian does get locked on the Chaos Bolt, but he's going to be coming out of that lockout soon. He's in a little bit of trouble if they can connect it out of the Cyclone. They get the full bash. He has the Trinket. The Iron Bar comes out. He might just go down here. The Trinket Feint, barely enough to keep him alive.
That was a beautiful offensive clone, which just kind of set up that bash, left Thessia out in the open. Really thought the Ball Jugglers were going to be able to bring him down, but instead, they just managed to take a few cooldowns away from Miley. Now Miley caught into his Cyclone. He's got to worry about Thessia the second that he gets out of here, because they're still putting a beating onto him.
Yep, his Cloak of Shadows should be coming up momentarily, so he does have that defensive cooldown available. Miley with the Trinket. Another Chaos Bolt lands, though, and certainly Bull JS are able to play very offensively right now. I'd like to see the Yacht Boys maybe go for a few more offensive setups just to make sure that Ball Jugglers aren't just able to push in and run all over them like this, because honestly, I don't see this ending up well for them.
Yeah, they need to keep Ball Jugglers at bay, and the best way to do it right now might be with a little bit of pressure, because Ball Jugglers have never been this offensive in the past couple of games that we've seen them. They're able to get Miley incredibly low. They're able to put pressure onto Thesia. Right now we do see Gelly in his icy veins. A little bit of a setup from the Yacht Boys. Maybe they are going to try to return the pressure. Zeepai getting caught into a Cyclone.
Yeah, but this is the thing about not running that Evernest talent. It's just so easy. Fnobbers shifts the deep. They just lock the Ring of Frost. They don't have to worry about the Sheep, of course, because he's in that shapeshift form already. And again, the CC just breaks down from the Yacht Boys. This is what makes me think that the Yacht Boys are definitely 100% playing for that ultra late game, because they're not really landing any CC at all. And this was a theme in their series against Toxic Eve as well. We saw the CC numbers between Botar and Miley, and honestly, it was not impressive at all from the Yacht Boys, but they won the series so convincingly anyways.
Yeah, I mean, and we are seeing Nazarian's taking quite a bit of damage here, and he's going to answer with his Dark Soul, and we are going to see Fnabi go ahead and throw up the Iron Bark.
Yep, so a nice Iron Bark preemptively on the blind. He might try to sit through this. No, he's actually going to trinket that into a nice DR Cyclone from Miley, so well played by him, but he needs to be a little careful as well. Taking a bit of damage, Zeepai just kind of turreting him with those lava bursts. You can just see him kind of tab lava bursting people right now. Just needs to make sure he keeps that damage up, keep Miley dropping low on mana. He's down to 50% already. Actually, the Smoke Bomb coming out. This is onto Fnobis. He's in trouble. He doesn't have the trinket available. This is one of those swaps that we were talking about. Looks like he's going to be okay. They committed the killing spree there, but they do get the Bark Skin. This is going to give them 1 minute with no Bark Skin, no trinket on Fnobbers. Definitely a kill window for the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, I love the pressure that they put on there. We're officially into dampening, 3% into dampening, but we've seen most of these games end at around 30.
Yeah, we certainly have. So the question is, will the Yacht Boys be able to capitalize on the fact that he doesn't have those cooldowns? Certainly for now, they actually went for the defreeze onto Fnobbers, but unfortunately I think it was DR, so they're not able to land any follow-up CC. And Nazarian's with that Dark Soul, instant respect Ice Block from Gelu Baba. I do appreciate that choice. Fnobbers now, he does have the Bark Skin in 10 seconds. That window's almost over. It looks like they're actually just going to retreat. Miley's going to drink. Fnobbers trying to push in, but not too much.
Yeah, those Shadow Furies have been the story of the match too. They're so clutch. We've seen so many triple Shadow Furies out of Nazarians, and right now Thesia taking quite a bit of damage. He's in that Iron Bark a little bit longer. Gelu ate almost the full duration of that Hex.
Yep, so the Yacht Boys getting shut down quite a lot. Nice Cyclone onto Thesia. I do like that, although a Chaos Bolt did fly into it. Don't think it would have mattered too much if it had landed. All 3 trinkets on the side of the Yacht Boys at the same time. Fnobbers is coming up quite soon, so as you can see, not too many kill windows right now for either side. Dampening still quite early days, so we're expecting as dampening to build up, of course, cooldowns matter slightly less. And Gelu, he needs to be careful that he doesn't repeat what happened last game. Blazing, speeding desperately around the pillar, able to kite out of LOS. Should be fine.
Yeah, Miley in bear form, going to charge over, trying to get an advantage with positioning here. Definitely a good idea as we start to see the damage really starting to add up. Once we get into 12% dampening, it's a whole different game. Gelu going to put the Icy Veins on, not going to accomplish much as Zeepai is caught into the Sheep. Nazarian going to get to pop that giant cooldown. So they do get that. That's a 3-minute cooldown off the table.
Yep, I think that's very good for them. Of course, Nazarian has been saving that as a defensive cooldown, and he can use it offensively, but hasn't been opting to in these particular series. So nice to have that one out the way. Dampening will be quite a lot higher before that cooldown comes back off. As we see the gouge, maybe they're trying to set up onto Nazarian's once more. The Yacht Boys, they're kind of content just sitting back. You see Miley's positioning right now. He's just so far away from the game, getting a nice drink up to 100% mana, and they have forced that 3-minute cooldown now. They have the 100% mana, and dampening is getting to about 20%. This is where the Yacht Boys should start trying to go seriously through those cooldowns from Fnobbers. We do see the Heart of the Wild traded out here to make sure that doesn't happen. So once that cooldown's down, it's certainly going to be a big deal for the Yacht Boys.
And here's a little bit of a setup from the Yacht Boys. We did see the Kidney go onto Nazarian and a Cyclone go onto Zeepai. Not too much follow-up at this point. They're playing it very calm. They're going to play reserved, and they're going to look for a kill window that they can guarantee that they will lock down.
The question is just how long is that going to take? Because right now, if you look at the cooldowns on the side of Ball Jugglers, they have all 3 trinkets, Iron Bark, Shine Rage, a bunch of... the list is pretty much endless. They have all but like 1 cooldown on that bar. So they're not close to running out right now. Another nice Iron Bark comes out from Fnobbers, who is losing the mana war slightly. Thesia, actually evasions the bash there, so nice play from Thessia. If he'd been bashed, that would have definitely been the trinket from him.
We could see more hearts. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
we could get that
not,
deep into dampening.
Yeah, I hope not. 4 minutes on the next Heart of the Wild, that's going to be like 60% dampening. Gelu Baba needs to be careful. 22%. The execute almost coming out there, 2% away. And Miley now, he's in a lot of trouble. Double cast ball. He's so dead here. He does fall behind the pillar. They get the kill out of nowhere. 2 chaos spots landing on to Miley. I'm not sure how that was allowed to happen by the Yacht Boys. Maybe this is the thing about those games. It's like it's so slow in many ways. And then out of nowhere, just instantly, Ball Jugglers, no CC, 2 chaos spots game.
You're walking the tightrope throughout the entire match when you're playing against the Destruction Warlock, and we're going to actually get to see that damage board yet again. A 180k Chaos Bolt coming through, pretty similar to how we've seen the Ball Jugglers perform. Everyone's just letting them play their game.
But how do you stop them?
How do you stop them? That is the question right now. It might not be with an RMD.
Yeah, and this is the thing. The Yacht Boys, we thought they had the answer, but clearly they do not, because that was their map choice. They're 2-0 down. They got to 30% dampening. Okay. Miley made a mistake. Okay. But these mistakes are going to happen in a 10-minute game. It takes one mistake. My only fear is, well, firstly, they have to win 3 games in a row. And secondly, I just think the playstyle they're currently doing just suits them so well. They just have to execute it that tiny bit better, and maybe they can take these.
Yeah, I mean, even if they do find a strategy that kind of works for them, we said it time and time again, 80% health is essentially what you're playing with against that Destruction Warlock, and there is just a powder keg of explosive potential. So at any point, the slightest mistake is going to get punished by Nazarens.
Yep, and that's been what's happening. I mean, it's even questionable whether there was a mistake there on the side of the Yacht Boys. I mean, Miley certainly couldn't do anything. I think Gelu would have been really stretched to do something if he didn't have mobility. So we'll see what the choices are. It looks like he is not playing the Evanescence. He got locked out on that first Ring of Frost. So they are still running the Ice Block. Same composition on the side of both sides. 2-0 to Bulls JS. We're expecting at least 4 minutes of very little.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to wait, try to get to the dampening again. We're seeing that pretty early on. Thessia getting caught into a relatively offensive clone here.
Yeah, actually this is a pretty nice setup. So they get the trinket onto Thessia, and we saw this last game as well, that Ball Jugglers, if they can land that offensive Cyclone on Thessia and then bash him, he will not have to feint up, and he will take a lot of damage. Then they can one-shot him through pretty much anything that Miley does. So if they can set that up one more time with him not hanging his trinket up, that's definitely an opening for Ball JS. At the same time, I don't think Thessia is going to allow that to happen. He's been playing very safe in these games. He still has the Cloak of Shadows, so he shouldn't be dying too easily.
Something I want to touch on, has Nazarens not been doing the cheeky pet shenanigans at all during the series against the Yacht Boys because the Yacht Boys have been playing so passively?
I think he has. I've seen it a couple of times, but yeah, like you say, there's not too many offensive pushes on the side of the Yacht Boys, so he doesn't need to do it too often, and maybe the fact that the Yacht Boys are playing so defensive can cause Ball Jugglers to, like maybe they don't predict the setup so easily, because it's like if 1 minute nothing happens and then after 1 minute and 30 seconds they randomly decide to step kidney you, it's pretty difficult to read that play sometimes. We see Miley has actually used a reasonable amount of mana for 2 minutes into this game. He's down to 65% already. The setup coming out from the Yacht Boys, but Thessia struggling to connect to his target. Nazarens just ports away, gets stuff Nobbers completely fine. Able to turret a little bit of damage onto Thessia, but not too much. And actually they get this Cyclone. Can they follow it up with the bash? The question is, can Fnobbers get across? It doesn't look like he's going for it. Maybe it wasn't available. Gelu taking a bit of damage now. Locked out on that sheep. That's one thing to watch for. Nazarens is doing a really good job of locking the Arcane School, then going offensive to make sure no CS can come out.
Definitely a smart play, because that's going to allow him to get some Chaos Bolts out, which obviously is a win condition for Ball Jugglers at any point in the game.
Yep, I completely agree. Chaos Bots can win you the game at any point. That's why the Yacht Boys are playing like this. Not something we saw them play even against the Turbo. They were more offensive than this. We see another Cyclone onto Thessia. This is something the Ball Jugglers have been starting to set up. Will they get the bash off this? Here's the bash. This could potentially be dangerous. The Chaos Bolt comes out. He's just going to die. The Trinket comes out. Maybe it's too late. 3 Trinkets on the side of the Yacht Boys, and Thessia survives.
Big reason Thessia survived there was an excellent smoke bomb, but he's not healed up yet. One of the interesting things has been Miley's just not been afraid to use mana at all, almost indicating that they were maybe going to go all in instead of trying to dampen, but Geli Baba and Thessia just under so much pressure that he kind of has to use that mana at this point.
Yeah, and I don't think they have any pressure. This is the problem. When Fnobbers can literally walk up to your rogue, cyclone him, and then bash him, you are behind. And the fact they're not generating anything, we see Galubaba has to use another ice block. They do get the skin on Fnobbers, and they actually got his trinket with the blind, I do believe there. So this is something that we touched on a little bit before. Hitting that Resto Druid is definitely a way you can win the game very, very easily, but it comes at the risk of leaving 2 DPS free, so they do need a very clean setup. Zeepai doesn't have his trinket. If they can deep sheep Zeepai and go for the CC, such an unfortunate deep freeze there onto Fnobbers. That was triple DR. No CC going to follow up on that. And, like, I just want to see them hit Fnobbers. They have the killing spree available. He doesn't have trinket. He doesn't have bark skin. Zeepai doesn't have trinket. You have 18 seconds to potentially do one more swap to Fnobbers and go for that kill, but none of the teams we've really seen have been going for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different strategy. We definitely want to mix it up a little bit at this point, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact, the reason that we're not seeing it, these guys are scared out of their minds of Nazarene. They are scared of these Chaos Bolts, and I can't blame them.
Yeah, and it's completely justified, of course, because if they hit Fnobbers, we actually saw this in one of the NG games. They did go for a swap on Fnobbers. They were very close to the kill, and then Nazarenes forced Mimpoike off just with one Chaos Bot, and they had to abandon it instantly. So definitely there are reasons why you do not hit Fnobbers. It's not this, they're not hitting it because they're silly or something. They are calculating the decision. But like at this point, you're 2-0 down, nothing else is really working. You have to evaluate, is it worth taking that risk, or do you really want to go for this dampening game again and just try and play it that little bit better, because Miley is taking a lot of damage right now.
I mean, that's the thing. The Yacht Boys are an incredible RMD, and this is the way that they like to play the game, but you have to deviate from it because Ball Jugglers this is what they want. This is why they brought this comp. You're just feeding them wins if you're going to go into their strategy.
Yep, but the question is, do any other strategies work? And the answer so far has been no. We do see the wall coming out from Nazarenes, able to trade out for that swap. No real CC onto Fnobbers, so maybe a little bit preemptive on the side of Nazarenes there. Just wanting to be safe. We see Miley down to 30% mana. He's actually maybe going to go for a drink here. No, it actually looks like he's going in. They want to go offensive on this one. He bashes him up. There's the Iron Back onto Nazarenes, though. Unfortunately, preemptively, they do get the Cyclone onto that, but no CC onto Fnobbers once again. The Yacht Boys really struggling to chain this.
That's one of the largest pushes that we've actually seen from the Yacht Boys so far, and it's kind of sad. First of all, because we're 6% into dampening. Second of all, because not much came out of it. So many defensive cooldowns still, but Nazarene taking a lot of damage inside of this smoke bomb, and he's lost a lot of his pressure from the Dark Soul.
Yeah, that was very greedy from him not to trinket that one. I guess he knew that he was fine. It certainly looked from our point of view like he was taking a lot of damage and it wasn't worth the risk, but he is just completely fine now. Fnobbers still has his trinket, Nazarenes still has a trinket, and Nazarenes is the target of choice for the Yacht Boys. We see dampening starting to stack up a little bit, 10%. Miley is reasonably low on mana, but he's certainly got enough. He lands a nice Cyclone there onto Fnobbers. This is the setup again onto Nazarenes, the kidney shot. Unfortunately a bit DR. Looks like they're going to be able to lock the polymorph coming out of Galubaba, who does use his snap there. He does have one ice block available. He just, oh my, wow.
He barely lives through that Chaos Bolt. And Miley needs to find a way to drink. First, he needs to stabilize his team, and then he needs to find a way to drink, because we know that the Ball Jugglers love to live in that 30% dampening range. We're getting there quicker and quicker, and just look at how much pressure they already have on. And if Miley doesn't have any mana, it's going to be a stomp for Nazarenes.
Yeah, and this is the thing as well. It's so hard to play the game when you're the Yacht Boys, because every time you try, even if you get a cooldown, you just get blown up like Thessia just did there. It's like, it's not just scary, it's also really tilting. Like, it's so frustrating to play against a composition like this. I know that, like, you do get your good setup and then they survive anyways. It's really upsetting, and then you get punished on the way out completely because your rogue has to literally walk to the next pillar where your druid is.
I can't believe Miley even managed to get that NS off. Just want to point that out. That is so insane. Thessia just getting melted by, yet again, another Chaos Bolt. Miley, not stable himself, below 50% health here. Going to have to try to dance around this pillar.
Yep, and that's going to force the defensive blind out of Thessia. This is the kind of thing you don't really want to have to see when you're playing the RMD. They had to use the trinket on Miley. Thessia doesn't have his trinket either. He's caught into this Shadow Fury. No Chaos Bolts coming out just yet. Galubaba taking a little bit of damage here. The Dark Soul's almost over, but this Chaos Bolt's going to land. It's onto Gelu. He's in a bit of trouble. He does have one ice block available. Nazarene's actually taking a bit of damage, and he pots in offensively. Maybe they can punish this. He's way out of LOS of Fnobbers, but it looks like Thessia's struggling to connect. He's getting thunderstormed away by Zeepai. They're just controlling him quite nicely. He's able to connect now, but Nazarene's back to 100%.
Yeah, Nazarian getting way too aggressive there, and we do see a lot of defensive cooldowns need to be popped at this point, and that might be because of him overstepping, and this could create a window for the Yacht Boys to potentially punish them.
Yeah, at the same time, they're merely just taking one Chaos Bolt to the face. He's out of LOS, but he might be in trouble. The Buckskin comes out. Now he's just going to be in execute range. The NS comes out barely in time. The cheap shot onto Nazarians is the only reason he's still alive. 23% dampening, though. Miley struggling so much. The triple DR deep freeze onto Nazarians. They're just doing anything they can to stop this damage, but the Cyclone from Fnobbers, can they set up out of it? A nice counterspell denies that Chaos Bolt on the side of Nazarians, and Nazarians has used both his trinkets. He's used his wall, but he's just going to get the game here. This should be it. Miley, 5%. He's trying to get away the Groat into the sheep. So much CC onto Nazarians, preventing that execute coming out. But as soon as he comes out, he's just dead again. 12%, 10%. There's no way he survives this. I cannot believe he's still alive. Unable to land that execute. Fnobber's chasing after him. He's going to go for that low cyclone. He does land it, and his team's just going to be able to chase. Nazarians trying to get the fear onto Thessia. That's going to get kicked. Now the full bash onto Miley. Surely he's going to go down here. The execute range is there. The Shadow Fury. That's going to be it. Ball Jugglers are your second team to this year's regionals.
Beautiful play by Fnobbery there.
Yep.
He just trying to get the CC going a little bit, but it just took so long for his team to actually make it on over. And it thought maybe for a second Miley was going to be able to pull it off. We're going to take a peek at the damage board. Chaos Bolt hitting pretty hard this time, harder than we've seen in the past two games. 204K.
Yep. And
terrifying.
I actually
in the next qualifying cup because it is so strong against the RMD. The amount of RMDs we thought was going to dwindle down significantly, but only one RMD is actually going to be leaving and not come to the third qualifying cup.
Yep, and that's true. So we're going to have two very strong RMDs in the next qualifier cup. We're still going to have teams like LND that have been beating them. Toxic Youth, of course.
Look how strong this lower bracket is. Yeah. Look at how strong some of these teams are. Northern Gaming Blue, right off the bat, one of the favorites to win this. You already mentioned LND. Yeah, so many teams, and now the Yacht Boys are going to join their ranks.
And if you're the BlizzCon champions, by the way, you're so upset. You're completely gutted by this result because you have two RMDs that have both been beating you in the lower bracket, and neither of them qualify because of this Destro LSD, which is one of the comps they can beat as